Hello, and welcome back to Life, Love, and Jesus as we are continuing our journey through God's Word, learning from the book of Leviticus. We are in chapters 22 and 23 today, and chapter 22 is just continuing. Chapter 21 started giving rules and laws about the priests and their holiness and how they are behaved. And chapter 22 continues that, explaining how the priests are to be holy and set apart and follow the Lord. And then what are acceptable offerings is the second part of chapter 22. Chapter 23 lists the feasts that the Israelites were required to keep every year. But if at the beginning, it lists the Sabbath, which is a weekly observance they were required to keep. And then it goes over all the yearly feasts that they were required to keep. And I am considering doing a separate video on these feasts because there's so much there, but I am still recovering a little bit from the flu and my voice is still a little hoarse. So if I do that, it won't be for a few weeks probably, but I will let you know if I do that. I think there's just so much here that we can learn from. And so if you would like to see me do a video on the feasts, just put something in the comments to let me know that there is interest there, so that maybe I will go ahead and be able to get to that once I am 100% recovered from the flu. Let me tell you, this flu was no joke this year. So back to chapter 23, the Sabbath they had to keep every year, and then the other feasts that they had to keep was the Passover, and of course that celebrated or reminded them of their deliverance from Egypt. The Feast of First Fruits, the Feast of Weeks, the Feast of Trumpets, the Day of Atonement, and chapter 16 covered the actual laws about observing the Day of Atonement, and the Feast of Booths. I do think going into them in more detail would be beneficial. So hopefully I will be able to get to that. Keeping up with these daily videos is quite the chore, so there's no promises there, but I am going to try. Let me know if you're interested, because that will be greater motivation for me to fit it into my calendar. So that is the content of chapters 22 and 23, just laws for the priests and laws about the feasts and about observing the Sabbath. And these are important for God's people to remember how He has met their needs throughout their history and how He has delivered them and what He has done for us. And this is important for us to remember as well. It's why we observe things like Easter and Christmas, to remember what the Lord has done for us. So once we know the content of the chapters, we always go to our 3 questions, and I do hope you have a journal that you're keeping and writing your answers. What do I learn about God? What do I learn about myself? And what do I need to obey or change in my life because of what I have learned? Number 2, what do I learn about myself? I do think I need to share this with you because I have made a lot of these videos talking about, in the book of Leviticus, talking about the holiness of God. And this is what I wrote for question number 2. What do I learn about myself? I wrote, I do not take holiness seriously enough, either my own pursuit of holiness or God's inherent holiness. Even though I know it and I teach it and I read it and I've been learning it for many, many years, there is always room for growth, and I need to take the holiness of God much more seriously. And when I do that, then my own pursuit of holiness will be much more serious as well. I will be more serious about the sin in my own life when I do that. When I keep God's holiness in perspective, and I don't do that, I'm not serious enough about it often enough. So what are your answers for today? What are you going to write in your journal? What do you learn about the Lord? What do you learn about yourself? What do you need to obey or change in your life because of what you have learned in God's Word today? Thank you for joining me. I hope you'll be right back here again tomorrow. We're almost through the book of Leviticus, and I hope you have learned a lot about who God is in this journey. And we'll be right back here tomorrow, picking up in chapter 24 as we continue on through this journey in God's Word. Thank you. Have a wonderful day living for the Lord.